Everyone. We're just going to give it another couple of minutes just to see if we've got anyone else joining us for the percussion talk. You'll see we've got two students here as well, Abby Flood and Tom Hall, who've joined us from the department today. So they're going to be helping with the presentation, but we'll just give it another couple of minutes and let everybody get connected and settle in. Tom, if you just want to keep an eye on the waiting room, that would be lovely, thank you. Okay, we'll literally just give it a minute or two and then we'll make a start. Lovely. Great. Okay, is anyone else in the waiting room, Tom? No, you are allowed to unmute, Tom. We're just going to do this all by mime. Well, I'll say a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to this afternoon's session. I'm going to just quickly, while I remember, read our little safeguarding measures and notice just to start off this session, just so that everybody's aware what's happening here. So from our marketing team, all participatory sessions relating to online open day will be recorded for upload to the web, archive purposes, and to ensure best practice for future recruitment events run by the college. By joining this session, you give consent for the RNCM to record and store your participation. If you do not wish to be an active participant, please keep your camera and microphone switched off. And just to remind you that you are very welcome to turn your camera on if you wish. And because we're a small group, please feel free to turn your camera on. But if you want to just leave your microphone off, that will be great, unless obviously you want to ask a question. We're also obviously going to be running the chat feature during the course of the presentation, and Abby's going to keep an eye on that for me. So every now and again I'm going to grind to a halt, and Abby will let me know if there's any questions in the chat, and of course we'd be very happy to answer those for you. So we'll make a start, and as I said, thank you very much for joining us for the percussion department presentation, leading on from the department, from the school presentation we had this morning with Nick Thompson and the rest of the team. So at the RNCM percussion department, as you can see from my name there, I'm the director of percussion, and in our department we have 19 students, and you can see here again Abby Flood, who's a postgraduate, second year postgraduate. Abby's been with us in the department since she was a first year undergraduate, so she's been here for 6 years, just about to complete the 6 years of study. And Tom Hall, who's a current second year student. So we thought we'd ask two students to come in and they can talk a little about their experiences as we're going along. So if you have any questions, it may be that you would like to direct them to either Abby or Tom as we're going through. So our department currently 19 students, and we have a large staff as well. So my deputy is Yu Le, Deputy Director of Percussion. Then we have Professor of Timpani Ian Wright, mallet specialist Liz Gilliver, orchestral percussion specialist Paul Patrick, Dave Hassel, who looks after the drum kit and Latin side of the programme, and Andrea Vogler, who works with the students in the younger years, but also works on workshop and pedagogy, can't say it, skills in percussion. So how our lessons work is that you can hear there's obviously quite a lot of staff there, and we are slightly different from the rest of the school in as much as all of the students see all of the staff all of the time. So up to level 3, so for example where Tom is at the moment, he's a second year just going into a third year, his principal study lessons are divided up by me so that he has a good split around the teachers, making sure that he covers all aspects, for example, of the timpani programme, of the drum kit programme, of the mallet side of the programme. But once Tom gets into level 4, or in fact where Abby is at the moment as postgraduate 2, she makes the decision every year as to how she wants that split to work. So she may decide one year as a postgraduate that she'd like to have half her lessons with timpani and maybe not have any lessons on drum kit or Latin. The next year she might decide to swap that the other way, or split everything evenly between the 8 of us on the staff. So it's a little bit of an unusual package in the way that it works, but we feel that with me doing the split up to level 3, it means that the students get a good grounding across all areas of the programme, and then once they're into level 4, 4th year undergraduate, they can make that decision for themselves. So in our department, as I said, we're 19 students at the moment. We have been between 16 and 25 students in the department. So that's the general idea of how big the department is. We're a very international department. Our students currently are from China, Portugal, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and of course, right the way around the UK as well. A big emphasis on our department is on how the students work within the department. And Abby's a very important person in our department because she helps me and Leah to run the department in terms of how our room booking systems work, how our teachers work with their timetabling, and all of our online Moodle content, which of course during this term has been absolutely vital as it's been a real link and a lifeline, if you like, for all of our students who are really spread right the way around the world. We've got one of our students currently in Canada at the moment, and actually I have to admit, he's a student from Hong Kong, but he hadn't told me that he was going to his parents' place in Canada, so we'd put all of our lessons and classes at a particular time that would suit all students that were in the UK and the Far East, which is in the morning, sort of 10 o'clock in the morning. But I hadn't realised that he hadn't gone back to Hong Kong, he'd actually gone back to Canada. So he was getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and joining us for classes, and came to quite a few of them before I realised what had happened. But we're a very tight-knit department. We have a very strong emphasis on teamwork, and we have a very strong emphasis on mentoring as well, with the students that are a little further up in the department, really looking after the younger students. It's a very complex program to start off with so many teachers involved and so many rooms and instruments involved. So I think it's really important that the students kind of help each other as much as they can. We also like to present ourselves as a team. So one of our flagship events, the Day of Percussion, for example, that's very much run from within the department, and all students are involved in the process. They might have particular jobs on the day, they might have particular things that artists that they might be looking after. Tom, you've done 2 Day of Percussions with us. What have you been involved in for those particular events?
Well, I think the first one I was on like the general team, so we kind of split it up into usually the older ones that look after the artists specifically, so they go with the artists, and then we have the younger ones in the department. So when I was a first year, and we kind of do the general bits, so looking after the trade stands, things like that, making sure that the rotors are all correct on the door, so making sure that people, when they come in, you know, they have their ticket and they know exactly where to go. So yeah, and that's what I did in first year. And then in second year, I got to work alongside an artist and just basically be by their side throughout the day, and making sure they had all their instruments, and you know, if they wanted any refreshments or anything like that, I'd go and get that for them. And in return, you know, I learned a lot about what they're doing. I got to go to their like practice session beforehand, so have a little listen before the concert. So yeah, it was like a great learning experience, and it was just all round a great day.
And Abby, I know you've worked very closely, obviously, with me over the years, working with that whole idea of artist management and the logistical kind of side of things as well. Is that something that you've enjoyed doing during your time at the college?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel that stood me up in a good stead of, as well as playing, also being able to like do other things such as like administration and marketing and events management and stuff like that. So especially with Day of Percussion, where like you have the chance to work with Simone to plan the event, and you go to all the meetings with programming and stuff like that. So that sees like other aspects of the whole industry. So that's really good.
Good. I think this is something that I'm very keen on in the department, is that It's the all-round musician. It's having all of the skills, and it's very interesting, I think, for the students to see how these kind of events run from this side of it, as well as from the artist side of it as well. It just gives a really good understanding as to how the industry works. And I firmly believe that that's really, really important right the way through the programme. So talking of which, the programme, we've already explained a little about how the lessons work. So the principal study one-to-one lessons are the number of lessons is split, and as I said, I do the split from levels 1 to 3, and then afterwards the students are free to choose how they want those lessons to be split up. We also then have on top of that our Monday classes, so that's a class every week which is either tutor-led, student-led, or a visiting artist led. And again, my kind of job here is to make sure that we're covering in the classes as many different aspects of the programme and as many different topics as we can. So for example, one session might be with Ian Wright working on Baroque timpani. The next session might be with Paul Patrick, who's principal percussion at the BBC Phil, focusing on a particular piece of orchestral repertoire. The next session might be with Andrea Vogler, looking at how to run and manage workshop skills. So we're trying to blend as many different ideas and styles into these sessions as we can. We also then have a weekly class that I take at the end of the week, which is the performance class. Now for that, the students are split into, we split the department into 3 groups. So everyone gets the opportunity to play when they come to that class. So there might be 6 or 7 students in a class. But for those classes, the thing that's very important is that it's not me just rabbiting on after the performances. So actually what happens is that once the student has played, then all the students give their feedback first in a sort of critical analysis, if you like, and then I'm the last person to then add anything to that. I think that's something that's very important, because I think it helps students to learn about their own playing through seeing other people's performances. And the way that we split the department up for those classes isn't by year group, it's right the way, I take a cross section through the department. So Tom, for example, might very well be in a group with a first year, maybe one other of his colleagues in the second year, a postgrad 2, maybe a 4th year. So there'll be 6 or 7 of them, but spread right across the programme, always getting some of the newer players, whether they're new postgrads or new undergrad students, in the mix as well, so that everybody understands how the process works. That's something that's been very, very successful over these last few weeks, obviously while we've been in lockdown, because we've actually done it through the whole department, but we've taken it in turns to perform. But also during the course of a session, everyone will give feedback on at least one performance, and I think it's good for students to watch in an active way, not just to watch a performance and give a round of applause and say hooray, but actually to sort of be able to say something afterwards. Abby's managed all the music for us, so the students can all have the music in front of them as well, which we do in the live situation too. So we can follow the music as well, and maybe look at it in the way that a panel might look at it, or the way an audience might look at it. And I feel that's very important focus for us as a class. Having those classes happen once every 3 weeks means that everybody's got time to learn some repertoire in time for those sessions, and we work very hard on presentation skills as well. This is again a good opportunity in a semi-informal setting to present your piece and to understand how that all kind of works together. A slightly more formal thing is the stage performances that happen, and that's to the head of school and the deputy head of school, so those are a little more formal recitals. And of course we have a lot of external guests coming in as well. So in recent months we've had Cormac Byrne, Kai Stober, we've had Evelyn Glennie here, not online, and that's been when we were back in the building. Keiko Arbeck has come in, Joe Locke, Eric Samu. We had a class very recently, in fact, Tom, I think you performed at it. This was one of our online classes. Do you want to just explain how that class worked? Yeah, so well, we had a Zoom class a couple of weeks ago. It was with percussionist Alejandro Calvo Coelho, and he's a head of department at the conservatory in Weimar,
in Germany. So, and he's quite young as well, which is really nice because it's like a breath of fresh air. He's very young. How he got into teaching, and he's gone and done a load of big competitions all around Europe, the ARD and things like that. So yeah, and we just had a couple of us that played in the class and played the piece all the way through. And then he just gave feedback on everything that he was thinking during that performance, and anything that he would have said constructively in order to help me improve how I play the piece. And it was brilliant. You know, he had his piano and everything in front of him, and he was just going off on one and you know, improvising around what I was playing. So and just showing me how, like, long phrases and things like that, and trying to connect everything together in the music. It's stuff that is fundamental when you play, but you often miss when you're trying to think about so many things when you're performing a piece. So it was really good to see how he analysed the way I played and the feedback he gave.
Okay, lovely, thank you. I can see Abby typing, which means I think there must have been a question. Would you like to just jump in for me, please, Abby? Thanks.
Sorry,
Tom.
we just had a question. So from Julie, and she's looking to do either composition or percussion. And she was wondering, if she did the composition, would she be able to take part in chamber or chorale groups and orchestras as a percussionist? And then she's also done quite a few compositions for percussion. And I mentioned, you know, Freya Island, who
Yes,
is a composition student, and she does some percussion and chamber groups and stuff.
yeah. So just to sort of go back a little bit, tiny little bit here, so that we don't have any students that are on a joint principal study anywhere in the college, purely for the fact that it's each of the programs of study are so full, it's just actually not possible to do it. So for we've as Abby mentioned there, we have a fantastic young composer in the composition department at the moment who actually I first met as a percussionist. I went out to do a masterclass at her music service before she came to the RNCM, and she was very interested to try and keep her percussion going in some way. Now obviously we're a big department, and the percussion students will obviously have to take a priority when it comes to things like symphony orchestra and playing in certain orchestras and ensembles. But Freya was able to join us and play with a couple of our groups. She also has come in on a few of our classes as well. All our classes are open to all students, in fact, to come along to, and that's right across the college. So we often get, for example, some of the cornet students going to the trumpet class. That's absolutely fine. As long as an opportunity isn't being taken from a principal study percussionist, that's the only thing. But to be honest, I think at the department, the number at the moment is 19. I don't think either Abby or Tom would say that they were sitting around doing nothing at any point. So there is absolutely plenty to go around. The only thing I would say is that if you were with Adam Gorb in the composition department, that would come first. That would be the agreement, in the same way that it has been with Freya, that she is a principal study composition student. So if there was something with us and something for them, she would have to go to the composition workshop or presentation or whatever it is, and it's worked out well. She's been able to come to a few things for us, and she's been heavily involved, of course, in the performance of pieces. It's probably a good time to mention our composition project, which I know that Abby has been involved in. Tom, I think you have been involved in it as well. We have a project that runs every year. That's for all of our composers to write for percussion quartet. The students will write pieces, we'll workshop them, and then we'll record them. That's a project that we've run ever since I came as director of percussion 10 years ago. And it's a really nice way for the students to work together, but also to understand how to write for percussion as well. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about our rooms, which seems a bit bizarre while we're not sitting in them, but we're very lucky at the college because we have rooms that are just designated for the percussion students only. So our large percussion studio, the Yamaha Percussion Studio, then 3 rooms in the not the library building, the Oxford Road wing of Oxford Road building, a small marimba room, and then we have a room on the other side of the building, which is the drum kit and Latin room. That room we do share with the pop course drummers, but we have a good kind of room share agreement with them. Certain days are for us, certain days are for them, and certain days basically are just a free-for-all. So we have rooms that are specifically for percussion. No one else can use those rooms, which means that we have very good access. It's good flexibility for the students. We have a lot of instruments as well. I think it's 5 5-octave marimbas. Is that right? I was counting them up yesterday, and I thought, I don't know if I've counted one twice. It is. It's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of timbs, obviously. We've had some new instruments come in from Yamaha not that long ago, just last year. In fact, there was much excitement and cardboard boxes everywhere while things were being unloaded. But as I said, we're very lucky because we're in very specific rooms. So the room bookings are managed, and the practice room booking is managed actually at the moment through our own system. Abby, do you just want to explain a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so every Sunday it gets released, and I don't know if you've heard in other sessions about the Azimuth way of booking it, but currently we do it on the Moodle system, and it gets released every Sunday, and I input all the teacher hours, so those hours are always blocked, so you know that Ian will be in the YPS at a certain time, and then I will calculate how many hours you can get, and then normally in the big studio YPS we have around 4 or 5 hours a week in there for you to go in, and then all the other rooms it's around 17-18 hours that you get to divide, and you can book those from Sunday to Monday when it's released, and then from Monday evening, any free rooms, normally around 6 o'clock after class, any free rooms that are left and people have like booked all they want, it's like a free for all, as we call it, where you can book and fill up the rest of the system. So it's like quite fair, where we all book our hours we need, and then we also can use any extra hours we want in the week. Is that a good explanation?
That's a very good explanation.
Okay.
It's all very complicated. I just leave Abby to it, and suddenly magically it all happens. Okay, we'll just move on to talking a little bit about ensembles. As I'm sure Abby and Tom will both affirm, as soon as you get into the building, you're in orchestras and ensembles. We know that students in the run-up to coming into the college will be involved heavily in orchestras and ensembles, and we want to keep that going as soon as a student comes into the building. So it could be that a student is in one of our specific first year projects, but it could also mean that as a first year you may end up in a symphony orchestra or an opera or a large project, as has happened many times. So our orchestras are, as you would expect, symphony orchestras, chamber orchestra, concert orchestra, wind orchestra. We have a very strong tradition of symphonic wind bands at the RNCM. We have 2 operas a year. Our brass band, if you were at the presentation this morning, you will have seen David Thornton talking about our fantastic brass band that we have at the college. But we have also, in other elements or other genres, if you like, of the programme, our big band and jazz collective, our session orchestra, which is a crossover orchestra between the students on the BMUS and then the students on the BMUS popular music course. That's a really lovely opportunity to have all the strands of the college coming together, and it's a real flagship event for the college. Of course, we have percussion ensembles as well. Those of you at the presentation this morning will have seen Leo and a 6-piece group who went out to China last year. We have a lot of contemporary music I touched on there, with working with the composition department, and also working in a very unusual project which runs a couple of times a year called the Brand New Orchestra. Tom, can you just describe a little bit about how that project works? It's quite an unusual one.
Yeah, so I've actually been in this project quite a lot, but that's not a bad thing. It's basically the student composers within the composition department. They can write pieces for symphony orchestra, And then 3 times a year, the orchestra comes together and we basically go through their music and we perform their music in a concert. Usually it's quite wacky. We do some wacky things. We have I've played newspapers, I've played keys and things like that. It's very contemporary. It's very, very modern, but it's also very interesting because that kind of music and those kind of styles definitely has a place in the industry. So you learn immediately that you're not just going to be playing snare drum every day, if you know what I mean. There's going to be some things where you think, what? How do I do that? And you have to learn to adapt and be flexible. So yeah.
Great. Now, with all of these projects, how it works, how you get placed into them, is that I do a grid meeting every term, and the plan for me is to make sure that I don't put, for example, Abby into everything and Tom gets nothing. So I have to split it up between the students. However, as you heard Nick Thompson talking about this morning, we're very keen that students have some self-determination where it's possible. So if a student has got a particular request to be in something, as much as possible, I will try and go with their request. It's not always going to work. We did the Firebird Suite recently, and of course everybody wanted to be in it. So all the first years, everybody wanted to be in it, and for that then I had to go a little more with the seniors priority, and those students that had been in the college for a while. But that's not to say if you're a first year and you wanted to be in something. For example, one of our first years was playing in the opera this time round because he particularly asked to be in it. So I'm very open to those suggestions. However, we do have 2 projects a year that are allocated by screened audition. And how that works is that it's like a brass band contest. The students all come in and play the same thing, and then they're put into positions, and the first 5 or 6, whatever it is, get the seats of principal percussion, principal timpani, and then the players required for whatever the particular piece is. This is a really good system because it means that you can be a first year and end up in the hot seat. Abby, I know you've been in the Bridgewater Hall, which is one of our screened audition projects. You've done it quite a few times now, I think.
Yeah, so if the one which was meant to happen in this Friday actually was going ahead, I would have done 6 out of 6. So all 6 years I would have been in all 6. And then my second year I got the timpani seat, and third and fourth year I got the principal percussion seat. So like literally anything can happen. Like Tom this year was meant to be on the timp seat, which is super sad, but you know, something will happen, and like you'll get it again. So yeah, I mean, it's really good and it's really fair. Like I remember when I was in my first year, that was a big department, and then there was like 4 of us first years actually in the Bridgewater concert because it was a big percussion repertoire and stuff like that. So you never know what could happen, and yeah, it's exciting.
It's an interesting skill to have as well, because you know a lot of orchestras, this is how they audition nowadays, is by blind audition or screened audition, if you like. And you know, I always say to the students, it's a very unusual skill, and until you've done a couple, you know, you might find it. I remember the very first year I was at the college and we did it, and it really freaked a lot of people out. Even the more advanced players were really panic stricken by it. So now that it's become part of our culture across the school, what we're trying to train the students to do is to get a feeling of how to do it, in the same way as how you learn how to do your recital or take your techniques exam or whatever it is. It's a skill, and it's that kind of being in the moment, but it's just the bizarrest thing because you're playing to nothing at all. You're just going into what looks like an empty room. So I think that's another thing that's very important for the students to learn how to do that, and then to be able to take it into projects such as the concert at the Bridgewater Hall, but also to external projects as well. So for example, the brass band always goes down to Regent Hall to give a concert down there, and I think both of you have been to Montepulciano as well. Yeah, which is a festival in Italy where we're the house orchestra, if you like. So they go down and do kind of 3 or 4 concerts. Often there's some opera stuff as well going on, but they're out over in Italy for 2 or 3 weeks having a lovely time, and which the orchestral team look after, and it's a fantastic project for the students to be involved in. Any questions, Abby?
Yeah, we had a question of how many students get in each year.
Well, that's a little bit of a tricky one to answer, because it really can vary quite a bit. Our current fourth year, there's only one student in there. Tom's year, there's 5 in that year. Abby, the year that you came in, there was six of you. But when Abby came in the year above her, or 2 years above her, Graham's year, there was 8. So it really can vary quite a bit. So I would say there's no kind of set number. As you can see, as I said, our current third year is 1 on his own, and then the years below him are 5 and 6 students. The bottom line here, I guess, is, you know, if I when you come to audition and I want you in the department and I think you're at the required standard, then you're offered a place. I know that obviously students audition at lots of different conservatoires, so the way that it kind of pans itself out across the conservatoires means that every now and again you will get a year. So for example, the year above Abby, who had 8 or 9 students in it, but then the year below Abby, the current third year student, is 1 on his own. So it kind of moves itself around a little bit. But I would say that Tom's year is a good kind of indicator of a steady kind of number, which is 5. It's sort of 4 or 5 is the kind of normal size of a year that we're looking at. And was there another little question there as well, Abby, please? Oh, you're just on mute at the moment.
I'm on mute.
Mute.
I'm sorry about that. How many applicants do you get?
Oh gosh. Now, Abby, you can help me out here, because you've done all the audition days with me for the last couple of years. I think the last year we had 2 days of auditions. I would say it's around like 25, 30. Yeah.
Because you normally split up the day around like 12 a day or something like that. Like,
and then add on to that those students that apply through the accepted, which is the international applications, but also add into that the students that apply at the live Far East audition. So that's where my colleague Lee goes over to China with the team, not just to audition percussion, but to audition for all the schools. So I think he'll see about 15, 20 students, something like that. So he'll do, which are all filmed, so I watch them back as well. But I think I would say that the live auditions in the UK is about 20, 25, 30, something like that. Great, lovely. Okay, so chamber music. Well, we touched on this a little bit because we saw obviously the group that went to China last year, and we work a lot with small groups, so percussion quartets, larger groups with the whole department playing together. So last December we had the whole group playing with Joby Burgess, the Joby Burgess Collective, doing a large-scale project with them. And we worked the year before that with Manchester Metropolitan University, their animation unit, and we did a joint concert with them, which was the department split into quartets, quintets, and then with their particular repertoire, which was then animation was set to that by the students from MMU, and that was a really exciting project to be part of. But we also encouraged the students to take part in cross-school and cross-college chamber activities and receive coaching, not just from the percussion tutors, but also from the rest of our team, including Rob Buckland, who we met this morning, the deputy head of the chamber music department, and also John Miller and Andrea Vogler from the percussion school. So it's a good opportunity for students to work with other instruments and get some groups going, such as Kabantu, which is a group that was formed at the RNCM. It was a percussionist from our department, Delia Stevens, who teamed up with some students from the string department, and also a student from the pop course, and they formed this fantastic group that have gone on to have really superb success. But that was formed at the college, and they received a lot of cross-college, cross-school, if you like, coaching from across the whole of the chamber music team. A4 Brass are a recent group for the school as well, who've done extremely well, and the Aurora duo, which is Leah and Delia, as I previously mentioned. When they were at the college, they formed a duo and did incredibly well. So our chamber music department is fantastic. We work very closely with our colleagues in the chamber department, but for the percussionists, we feel it's a really important skill for them to have, and to be able to take part in concerts, working with guest artists. I know that Abby, I can't remember, Tom, if you were here or not, when Keiko Abe came. Yes, yeah. You were. Yeah, and I know, Abby, you were definitely involved in that concert. Do you want to just talk a little about that one?
Yeah, so I think it was a concert made up of 6 of Keiko's pieces or something like that. And the department got to play either duos with her or some did solos. And then we did The Wave, a big ensemble piece of hers at the end. And Keiko came and we rehearsed for 2 days maybe or something. And then we did the lunchtime concert where we got to play with her and stuff, and it was just so cool because you see her on YouTube all the time, and then like she was there and she was great. It was really great.
We've had some really exciting times in the department. We're very lucky. We have a lot of really superb guests coming along to work with the students and to work alongside the students. And again, that's something that we're very keen on in the school, is these the element of side-by-side projects and activities, so that the students are working really, as you heard in the Day of Percussion, both Tom and Abby have worked very closely with me and the performance and programming team and the festivals administration team to know exactly what's going on. And I think that's a really important facet of the department. So Nick touched a little this morning on the professional experience schemes that we have at the college. For us in the percussion department, the main one that is the link for us is the Halle scheme. Now, Abby's actually been on that scheme. So Abby, maybe if you could just explain how that kind of works and the process going through the various stages.
Yeah, so it's made up of 3 or 4 stages. So the first round is you get sent orchestral excerpts, and you do an audition in front of the principal percussionist and the timpanist of the Halle, and they assess you on the excerpts and some sight reading and like ask you a few questions. And then if you progress on that, it's a workshop stage where you do 2 workshops. So both are on different repertoire. So my first one was on Mahler 2, and you learn all the percussion parts and the timpani part. And then my second one was Mahler 5, and you learn all the parts again. And you workshop the piece and you discuss, like, it's about you knowing the pieces and like really getting into the repertoire. And then if you progress through that, you go and you sit in rehearsals with the Halle and observe a couple of different things and like get to ask questions and interact with the section and stuff. And then if you progress through that, you get to play in the rehearsal with them, and like they assess you basically on how you play and how you interact with the whole orchestra and how you get to know the repertoire. And yeah, so that's like great experience, just proper getting into a professional orchestra and seeing how they rehearse, because it's quite different to like student orchestras and stuff. And then if you finish the final round and they are like happy and everything, you actually get to progress and play a concert with the Halle, and then do like, hopefully that'll progress into freelance work. So yeah, that was really great. And it's really, you learn a lot, because like I've been in a lot of orchestras in the RNCM and like learned a lot in that. But then when you actually go and you're sitting amongst the players and you're not like a student there, you're just a part of the section. It is different, and it's like exciting and it tests your nerve a bit, but it's really good.
Great. We think our professional experience schemes are really first rate, you know, and we're so lucky because we have orchestras that are very close by, such as the Halle and the BBC Philharmonic, but we also have partner schemes with other orchestras such as the Chamber Orchestra of Europe, the Netherlands Wind Ensemble. So there are other opportunities for the percussion students to get involved in the professional experience schemes. And you heard Abby just touch on a little bit there about some external opportunities that then are available for the students. And I'm sure both Tom and Abby have been involved in a lot of music making outside of the college. We're surrounded by fantastic orchestras, but there's quite a big general orchestral scene with semi-professional orchestras and amateur orchestras, a lot of groups that do shows and musicals. We're of course surrounded by brass bands, so come the areas and the nationals, there's usually 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 of the students that will be playing with some of the top bands in the area, including Black Dyke, Foden's, Brickhouse. Who are you with, Tom, at the moment, or who did I last see you with?
I'm with Brickhouse.
With Brickhouse.
Yeah.
How have you found that experience of working with a top section band, but kind of keeping it going alongside your studies at college?
Well, I think it's definitely about timekeeping. You know, I really loved brass bands before I came to the college anyway. So, and then just going and spending time with different kind of people and people that aren't within the college. I think that's it's nice. It's like a breath of fresh air. So yeah, and then also often the conductors in brass bands, the work that you do is very intense over like quite a large amount of weeks running up to a contest, and I feel that that's quite different because you really get to work with that conductor and build a relationship with everyone that you're playing with and playing around. So yeah, and it's just an entirely different experience. It's a great experience. So.
I was a student at the college many moons ago, and actually during my time at the college I was with Foden's brass band, and pretty much right the way through my college experience, and I found that it was a really good experience, and as Tom says there, that it's, you know, it's great to play with a really top section band with some fabulous conductors and players, but just to play out of the building as well a little bit. And of course, Tom, I know you played in some fantastic venues as well, as amazing contests, but you know, the tours and really exciting things that the bands are doing. But there's other opportunities for students as well outside of the college, teaching in schools, for example, and working alongside, again, myself, for example, alongside Andrea, who runs a lot of projects. Abby's worked with Andrea on our young percussion project, which is a very exciting new group that Abby's worked very closely with Andrea on that. And I think, Tom, you've worked with Andrea on some workshop projects and some young explorers projects as well. So again, it's this idea of working side by side with a member of staff and learning at the sharp end, if you like, exactly how these particular projects and things work. Abby, any questions?
Yeah, so Alex asked, you mentioned the trip to China. Is that a yearly trip or was it just a one-off?
Well, we should have been going this year. I think both of you were supposed to be going, weren't you? I tried not to mention it. Yes, it was going to happen this year as well. It's a project that Leo has been involved in, so it may not happen every single year, but we've got some great contacts out there. Obviously, Abby went out on the first trip. It was a huge success, went very well, and the group went down very well, and the program went down very well, which is why we were hoping to be able to take the group out this time. What I will say about that particular project is that again, it wasn't just for the senior students, it was by audition. That one wasn't, it wasn't a blind audition, it was a live audition because we wanted to see how everybody was performing. So for that one, the students were, Leo and I did the auditions, and the students had to come and make a presentation, play something for mallets, play something for unpitched percussion, and then we chose the group. So, well, you can see we've got both of these guys were going to be in the project. So one from the year 2 and one from year 6. So we think it's important that if a student wants to participate in a project like that, that it's absolutely by merit. It's not, oh no, this is just for the seniors or what have you. So with a bit of luck, we'll be going back at some point, but yeah, who knows what's going to happen. And I can see this question, Abby, that's just come in about the auditions, and you just beat me to it because it's the next thing on my list. In fact, it's the last thing on my list. So the auditions and how they're going to work. Now, Nick touched on this morning, and as you probably heard from what he was saying this morning, our venues and estates teams are working very hard at the moment to see how our building is going to reopen and start to be used again. Now, obviously, the auditions are a big part of what happens in the autumn term. And as Nick said, the plan is to keep the auditions at the same time as when they would normally be, but to move the bulk of everything that's going to happen online. That obviously isn't going to work quite as well for us. So the proposal for percussion is that there'll be two options, although there will, I'm sure, be 3 or 4 more that come from it. Because the bottom line here is that for my part of the programme and for the audition, I need to be able to see a student playing mallets. It doesn't have to be marimba, but it needs to be mallets, snare drum and timpani. Now timpani is the killer, because I don't know anyone that has timpani in their house, including the timpani professor actually. So we have to make sure that that we can see the student play on that. So a proposal is one, that a student comes and does a live audition in the kind of normal way as we've done them before, but obviously keeping guidelines, making sure that we're in a big enough room, the social distancing, and making sure that everything is absolutely safe. The second option is to see if the student can get into a venue where the facilities are available. For example, if you're based near a music service, or you are part of a music service and are able to go in and sort of block the room out for half an hour, so that we can ask you over the link, right now can you play a timpani roll or play the piece or whatever it is, and to do it kind of that way. And then the third way is to do a recorded audition, which is a little bit like how I was explaining on the accepted auditions, which is how the students who are overseas often do their auditions. They'll film themselves doing a piece on the marimba, piece on timpani, piece on snare drum. And it might be that because of where those instruments are, it could be that they have got, let's say, a xylophone at home, so they can film that one at home, and then they maybe have to go somewhere else to do the timpani recording, and then go somewhere else to do the snare drum recording. So Nick and I are looking at various possibilities at the moment, and the college is aware that from an audition point of view, we are going to be the kind of a bit of an anomaly here because of the instruments that are required for students to come in. But in terms of requirement, the requirement will be, as it is, mallet, snare drum, and timpani. And that's about as much as I know at the moment, because of where we are as a college in the general scheme of things, of how we're going to be reopening our building and how we're going to be using our building for the autumn term. I hope that answers that question. Yes, it's a little bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Because everything is just so fluid at the moment. And in fact, I don't know. I think there was an announcement by Boris today. Yeah, I didn't hear it, so I don't know what's happened actually. What's the latest? You have to keep me up to date, Abby.
You can go to the pub and get your hair cut and go to a restaurant on the 4th of July.
Okay.
Social distancing. Social distancing is 1 meter.
Anything about that?
No, just I'm gonna get my hair cut. But yeah, no. Distance is just 1 meter now, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
Changing all the time. So
yeah.
Just have to, yeah.
One thing is for sure, well, 2 things are for sure. One is that, you know, the college is clearly, you know, we're taking everyone's safety absolutely paramount. There, no question. You know, we've got a team working in there, and they've been in there since March. You know, not in the building obviously, but you know, figuring it out, and then somebody going in with a big measuring tape and, you know, trying to figure out the logistics of how this is all going to work. And the team there are very practical, very pragmatic. They know exactly how we work in the percussion department. I've worked very closely with one of them over these last 2 or 3 months of exactly how the percussion department works on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a student practicing or whether they've got a rehearsal over there in that room, and what they'd have to move and how many doors they'd have to go through and how many door handles they touch, and every single permutation has been looked at, and that is absolutely crucial. But the second thing to mention is that, as Nick mentioned there this morning as well, no one will be disadvantaged by how they do their audition, whether you're in the building, out of the building, recorded, whatever it is, in exactly the same way. And it is probably worth mentioning here, particularly while Tom and Abby are here, that when we went into the lockdown, obviously for the percussion students, it was doubly tricky because a lot of the students don't have instruments at home. So my program that I put together with my colleagues in the percussion staff was very much to make sure that nobody got left behind and nobody was disadvantaged because they didn't have an instrument. So everything that we've done, everyone's been able to participate and do. So for example, the timpani professor, as I said, you know, nobody's got instruments, but he's come up with this fantastic series of lectures, for want of a better word, I think, you know, but focusing on particular pieces, particular styles, particular exercises, things that the students have been able to do. And it's meant that the students have been involved in a 10-week program of timpani study, but actually without having instruments. But it's kept the series of study going, so that when the students go back to the instruments, they've got more knowledge of that particular genre and particular instrument, even though they haven't spent the last 10 weeks kind of actually playing on the instrument. So it's kind of made us all look at it in a more global way, if you like, and a more holistic kind of approach. But I was very keen that nobody would fall to the side because, oh well, I haven't got a marimba, so I can't play again in the class or whatever it is. You know, through the whole of this, we've kept the department together. I've pretty much seen everybody every week, I think, when we've come on for our classes, and for the classes that my colleagues have run as well, certainly for the timpani professor and for the rest of the team, who we've kind of split up the Wednesday classes. So tomorrow, I think Paul Patrick is doing a class on Soldier's Tale, and I fully expect to see the whole department there at those sessions. So that's something that has been very important to us, but that is very important to us rolling forward to the students that are going to be auditioning this time round. Nobody will be at a disadvantage, and we'll find a way to sort of make it work for each of the students. And if it means there's a little tweak here and there, then that's absolutely fine. I've got to the end of my piece of paper, so hopefully I've told you everything you need to know about the department. But if there are any questions from anyone, for either myself or for Abby or for Tom, if you want to either do it on the chat, or if you want to just unmute, that's absolutely fine. Very happy to hear from you. Alex, I can see you. Have you got a question? No? Yeah, anything I can help you with at all? No. In terms of the material for audition, Nick mentioned that as well. So again, we're just looking at it at the moment. I think it'll be pretty much the same as it is the requirement that we had last year, because as I said, it means that we do kind of get the level on everything that we need to see. What I will mention is a question we often have about mallets, and you'll see in our requirements that while the timpani and snare drum pieces are kind of set, I think we give you the choice of from 2 or 3 pieces, but they're set. With the mallets, we leave that absolutely a free choice. That's because if a student hasn't done any full mallet work before they come to the RNCM, that's absolutely fine. If a student has done full mallet work when they get to the before they get to the RNCM, that's fine as well. But I'm not expecting someone to come in and be able to whiz up and down 4 mallets on a marimba for entry. So if you're not sure, go with the thing that you do the strongest. So if you have just started playing 4 mallets, and you can maybe sort of pick out Yellow After the Rain, but actually you've been playing 2 mallets for 6 years, play 2 mallets. Just go with the strongest thing. If you've been playing 4 mallets since you were 5 years old and you can play Dream of the Cherry Blossoms, great, play that, but play your strongest hand. That's really important, because I need to be able to see what you've been able to do over a extended period of study, not as something that you just picked up, 6 months ago and you're just kind of starting off at it. So I need to see the strongest thing you can do. And if you're not sure what kind of level to pitch that in at, the sort of the default is the grade 8, the Associated Board grade 8 book, the old syllabus, not the new one, but with the 2 mallet pieces that are in that. So A La Turca, I think, is one. Oh, help me out here. There's a black and white rag or something, isn't there? You two will remember those pieces.
Black and white rag.
There's a jig as well, bark jig.
There is a jig, yeah. There's an Allegro or something, a Vivace.
Yeah.
Vivaldi thing, Dance Poem. Yeah, there we go.
There's one format piece, yeah.
All the favourites. So if you really don't know what to pick, that's a good kind of standard piece. If you've already got it in your head, yes, I want to play this first movement of the Creston Marimba Concerto, whatever, fine, you know, but play the thing that you play the best. And I'm sure if you work with your teachers on that, of what's going to be your strongest hand that you can play at the audition. You would have heard that Nick mentioned there as well in the presentation this morning, and Kevin mentioned as well, that the interview is an important factor in the audition as well. We really want to know about you, what you've already studied, what your aspirations are. One thing that we don't do at the audition is kit and Latin, but kit and Latin is part of our course. So again, I'm not expecting anyone to come in and be kind of buddy rich straight away, but it is part of our course, and the students do have lessons with kit and Latin from the first year. But we don't do it at audition, because the audition would go on for about a week and a half, and it goes on for quite a long time as it is, because there's quite a lot of things that we need to see the students doing. Abby?
We had a question. I haven't done the grade 8 exam yet, but I am of the standard. Will that accept my chances of acceptance?
Yes, I think we've had this in the past, that if you haven't actually got the piece of paper with the grade 8 on it, but you are at the required standard, I'm fairly sure this has happened before.
That was me.
There we go.
I never did my grade 8, and then I got the place, and someone said, "Why don't you do grade 8 before you come, just to have a little test before you come?" So I did my grade 8.
Oh, there we go.
I got the place before.
So it does work 6 years later.
Yeah.
So yes, if you haven't actually got the piece of paper, but you are at the standard, that's absolutely fine. That is absolutely fine. And again, just get that mallet piece so that it's at that standard as well. So it's that has happened once, actually. I have to say that the mallet piece that was chosen by a student was way lower than a grade 8 standard, and actually it put myself and the panel in a real pickle, because while the timpani and the snare drum playing was good, we kind of couldn't tell, because the mallet piece, the standard of the piece was way below a grade 8 kind of standard, and it was quite difficult to sort of call it. So as long as that, as all those pieces are on that kind of level, but as we all know what the grade 8 mallet pieces are, and that's the safest bet. That is the safest bet. Good. Any other questions there, Abby? No
more questions.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for coming to the talk this afternoon. I hope that it's helped you and given you an insight into our department. Abby, thank you very much for fielding all the questions and for joining us. Tom, thank you very much for looking after the waiting room and giving us an insight into the department as well. It's great. Both of these guys have been very involved throughout their time at the college, but particularly in the last few weeks, when we've been really working hard to keep together as a department, but also keep together as a school as well. And we've had we know it's been tricky for everybody, but it's been great to to see everybody coming together and doing various things together. So we've got a department quiz next week, so I'm going to see if they've all been paying attention to the various classes and sessions that have been going on for the last few weeks. So yeah, you have to make sure that you've listened to everything as we've been going along. Great. Can I help with any other questions or anything? No, we're all happy. Well, it's been very nice to see you. Thank you very much indeed. And if there are any further questions, you can just email me at the RNCM, yeah, I'll be very pleased to help you with anything. And I look forward to seeing you in some way, shape or form at the auditions, whether it's this time or next time. So thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Abby. Thank you, Tom. Okay, if you guys just want to stay on for a second, that would be great. And thank you, everybody else. And hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you. Thanks, Karis. Thanks, Alex. Great. Thank you both. Fantastic. Really good.
That was cute.
Yeah, you're good. You're good ambassadors for the department. That's great. I'll let Nick know.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So yeah, I think are either of you doing the uni buddy or something? Yeah. So were there any other sort of questions or?
Well, not really. It's been fairly quiet on Unibuddy, but then there are lots of people that are on it. So I think they're just diverting the questions to the relevant people. So I don't think there was anything particularly relevant to.
Because I had a few this morning, but I think it was the lady or the young lady who was interested in composition who came, and then I think she sent a message to say she was going to the composition session. It's a really tricky one, but I mean Freya's been fantastic, because obviously Freya has been able to jump in and especially when they're doing sort of when they're doing kind of student composition things, and she's perfect for it, because we know her, we trust her, we can get the instruments to her, and she just trundles off and off she goes, and I know that everything will be great, and she plays really great. So cool. Good. Okay, I will close this link so it will stop recording, and yeah, thanks both of you. I'm really grateful. It's nice to hear it from, otherwise it's just me rattling on and on for hours on end, and it's nice to just hear some real experiences from you guys. So yeah, of course. Abby, I have to say, I saw Verity yesterday doing her stage, and I said to her, honestly, every time we've had a student rep meeting, you two are somehow next to each other. So you're either there, or there. Every time we've done it, you've been next to each other, and it just makes me laugh so much. So
well, because normally, like, not the one that we just did yesterday, but the one before, did you see Emily came on the screen? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, so Verity always messages me like, oh, is Emily going to make an appearance or something like that? So that time she was like messaging like, I dare you. And then yesterday, Emily's not here. So then she saw me talking, and she was like, is that John? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, get him to go on. She's like trying to get people to come on the screen all the time. And I'm like, no. And then Emily actually came on. And I think that was like the one time that like everyone was looking at my square or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was so embarrassing.
No, it's been really bizarre. You've always been next to each other on the screen every single meeting we've had. So it's been quite call the floods. Yeah. Guys, are we all set for class tomorrow? Because I'll step in at the start of the class, just say hi to Paul and what have you, and then Abby, you were talking about just before the class started, you were talking about luxury item and Desert Island. You're not going to believe it, but I've been asked to go and be a guest of a brass band who are doing Desert Island Discs, their own version on Sunday. So I'll be going and they chatting and like an interview kind of thing, whatever. So they've asked me for my luxury item. But then they said to me, you can pick whatever you like. And then they said, we've it's ranged from this to hair straighteners. And then when you said to me that your luxury item was hair straighteners, I was just like, I was really laughing, because I thought, isn't that weird? I literally just picked up the email and she said, you can pick whatever you want for luxury items. So yeah, so I'm doing a Desert Island Discs on Sunday with a band down in London or something they are, I think. So they've had various guests on over the last few weeks, and it's quite a good idea, isn't it, to just it's to keep their band and their band community sort of and this week we've got you and Fox from 4 Bars Rest or whatever, and sort of chat through things and play some pieces and everything. So yes, I'm doing that on Sunday. But anyway, I'll step in and see you guys tomorrow for Paul's class, and then go, and then Thursday is our last supper club, so everyone's going to have a go for the last supper club, so that'll be good. And then the following Wednesday will be the quiz, and that'll be it then for us. But thinking about it, sorry, there is one other thing, because there's the school quiz on Friday, the last Friday of the term. Chris and I have been trying to figure out how on earth we're going to do this, because we want to be able to have teams, but we don't know, we couldn't figure out how to do it so that it's not really clunky. So we're thinking to do it in the same way that I took part in the Young Voices quiz, because we've had a Young Voices quiz for like going ever since the lockdown. Every couple of weeks, our managing director, we do a quiz. And it kind of started off that I was just on my own, which is all right, you know, but then it's a bit sad, you know, because it's like, what's the capital of Malta, you know, and you just sort of think, like you can't sort of go, oh, I don't know, sort of like that. So I did about 6 on my own. And then for the last one that we did, Craig, the MD, said, look, why don't we make a team with me and another person who was on their own as well. So we were on the screen, but we were all on a WhatsApp call as well. So the 4 of us were on this together. He was the captain, so he made the answers, but we were all here as well. So when
it sounds complicated.
when Dan asked the question, then because I was on mute, then I was able to go, okay, Craig, what do you think it is? You know, and we'd be able to talk like that, yeah. And then Craig would go, yeah, okay, and we'd have like a 30-second discussion between the 4 of us. Yeah, I definitely think it's Oxford or whatever. Yeah, and then Craig was able to put the answer in. So we think we're going to do it like that. I can't think of a easier way.
Yeah, I can't think of a way, because we did a Zoom quiz where it was kind of similar, where we were all on the thing, and we WhatsApped the answers. But I think your way makes sense for us, like to WhatsApp the group, have like a group WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could have like a spokesperson for each team on this Zoom thing.
Like, it's like so the captain would put the answer in. So because we don't, I mean, obviously some people are just going to go on Google and cheat, but we don't, like, you know, so how we did it for the Young Voices quiz is that, yeah, we would have our little chat, and then Craig would type it in to Dan, type the answer in to Dan, so that straight away Dan could see whether our team had got it right. Mm-hmm. So we didn't sort of go, oh yeah, we said that, you know, when the answers came out, and I blatantly didn't say that. So we kind of did it like that, but because it was more interesting for me to be able to go, yeah, I'm sure it's that, you know, and have a little chat and put the answer, rather than what I'd done for the previous weeks was just either know the answer or not know the answer, and then just put it in, you know, put my answer in. So when I come in tomorrow to speak to the department, I might ask for just a couple of volunteers to come on a call with me and Chris a bit later on tomorrow, just to do a bit of a dummy run to see if it works. If you have a person, so let's just say there was 5 of you, let's have 3 in Abby's team and 2 in Tom's team, that Abby is a captain, Tom is a captain, but you've got your team here as well. I mean, they're going to be on the screen, obviously, because otherwise they're not going to be able to hear. They've got to be on the call, otherwise they're not going to be able to hear anything. But then being able to chat, and if you go like this and go, what do you think the answer is? You know, then I can't lip read what you guys are saying. So I might ask for just a little bit of assistance for that, because we're just racking our brains. We just can't figure out how it's going to work. But we think that will at least, and we've suggested that group teams are about 4 people, because if you've got 19 people, you've got like the whole department on your phone going, no, it's answer B, no, it's answer C, you know, then your captain's just going to have a meltdown. And also, so you if you're in a house with some people or whatever, you know, then you can do it like that as well. So you could have a team that, like, the whole family could all play together.
Wow.
So you could have everyone on the sofa kind of watching it, but one person would just need to be the captain, as in one person is the person that actually dials in the answer. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. It sounds really complicated, but I think it'll work. But we just need to do a bit of a dry run at it tomorrow. So I hate to kind of put on you again, but if either of you are free, probably around 5ish or something tomorrow. But I'll have a chat with the whole department tomorrow and just get a couple of volunteers, and then I'll set up a call with Chris Swan and just dial you guys in, and then we'll figure it out.
Okay, no worries.
It's so complicated. Right, thank you very much, you guys. I'm really grateful. And yeah, thanks for sort of yeah, being very positive and both speaking really well.
Who does this recording go to? Because this person's gonna have to like edit out like a whole conversation about quizzes and everything.
Well, they know what time it started, and they know what time when the last person left, because we were with SWVP, we were rattling around for half an hour before, trying things out, and whatever, and then at the end of it we had a bit of a chat as well. So I'm sure somebody will just snip it and edit it down. Yeah, so we don't want all of this on, do we?
No.
Brilliant. All right, thanks very much, you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.